Welcome back to the channel. My name is David Colarossi. I'm a licensed psychologist. Typically on this channel, we talk about events in pop culture. Today, we're talking about relationships. In particular, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to help you know A, whether or not you have a bad picker. Are you selecting the wrong people? And then B, if you are, what can you do so that you make sure you pick a better person, a better fit in the future? All right, let's get into it. There are 5 ways I think you can tell if your picker is off. Are you picking the wrong person? I think there's 5 ways you can tell. First one is you never feel good in your relationships. I think that oftentimes people get in relationships for the wrong reasons, and they quickly feel like they're disengaged. They may feel like they are constantly frustrated with their partner. They may feel like their partner is out of their league and they're constantly stuck in this kind of aspirational, I am less than, super deferential position. Whatever it is, if you feel like in a relationship you struggle to settle and you're constantly feeling unhappy or disconcerted, bad pick. The next clue that you may have a bad picker is that your relationships consistently end in the same way. Are you getting into the same kind of fight? Are you breaking up over the same kind of issue over and over and over again? For a variety of reasons, you may be drawn to the wrong kind of person. Maybe you're trying to repair trauma. Maybe you're trying to prove value. Maybe you're trying to overcome something that you struggled through in the past. Whatever it is, if you feel like the relationship follows the same cycle and ends the same way, your picker's not working. Number 3, I think, is really important, and it's simple. Do you feel proud of your exes? If you look back and you go, oh my God, I can't believe I dated that person. Oh, and I can't believe I dated that person. And that person, oh, so embarrassing, right? What that tells you is when you are objectively evaluating them, right, with distance from those people, that you would never want to be in a relationship with them again. The question for you is, hey, should I have seen some of those things earlier, right? My picker wasn't working when I selected those folks. Number 4, are you guarded in relationships? The reality is that in order for a relationship to work, you must be vulnerable. Vulnerability is the key that holds relationships together. It's the glue. You can look at work from John Gottman to Brene Brown. Everybody, there's a consensus that you have to be fully connected with people. You have to be able to be transparent with people. You have to be able to have a conflict and speak transparently about what you think and feel in a relationship. And if you find yourself guarded constantly, if you're constantly putting up barriers where you can't trust your partner, you've picked the wrong person. Number 5 is an easy one. Your exes have baggage. Everybody has baggage, but is it a lot of baggage? Is it carry-on baggage or is it stowaway baggage? And if you knew that your exes had a lot of baggage, if there was red flags that you ignored because you were driven by something else, your picker wasn't working. Okay, so maybe your picker isn't the best. You should be asking yourself, okay, well, what do I do? How do I select better people, or at least people that are a better fit for me? I think it's first important to understand a concept called the progression bias. This is the psychological tendency in relationships to push things forward. When you enter the dating world, I think most of us think that we are super discerning. We have a list of traits or characteristics that we want, and we don't compromise. But the reality is that we are all, in general, psychologists would say, we are all very anxious about being alone. And so we're sort of looking semi-desperately for someone to pick us, someone to want to be with us. So we are oftentimes pretty compromising when we first enter into relationships. And as a relationship progresses, and this is true from date 1 all the way through till moving in, getting engaged, getting married, we're constantly hoping for things to work out. And as part of that hoping for things to work out, we oftentimes make more and more compromises. There's a lot of research, and I'll link it below, showing that our compromises oftentimes have us dating people that are nothing like the person we think we want. The more time, energy, and resources we put into a relationship, the more likely we are to put up with things that conflict with our natural ideals because we've invested so much, and also we don't see alternatives out there. With all that being said, to me, it points out the fact that at the start of a relationship, we should be more discerning. You should really be deliberate about, does this person meet the criteria, and try and stop yourself from compromising initially and engaging in a relationship, because once the relationship has started, it becomes very difficult to back out. Okay, so here's the traps you should avoid before entering a relationship. Number one, don't pick someone based on attraction. Yes, the guy on the Harley with the bad attitude, smoking cigarettes on the hill, judging people, that badass figure is attractive. But that badass figure does not lead to a lasting relationship. You are much better off picking someone that you align with by personality, by interests, by dreams. The more commonality you have, the better off you are, the more likely it will work out long term. Number two, do not pick someone, or for that matter, do not reject someone based on what your parents think, based on what your family thinks, based on what your friends think. It's a very easy trap to get into, especially if you are questioning your picker, is to look around and go like, hey guys, is this the right person? The reality is other people have your best interests at heart, but they are not you. They will not have the same emotional needs that you do. They will not have your same interests. So you have to, at some level, trust your intuition. And number three is an easy one. It should be an easy one, and that is observe red flags. If you see someone that has some kind of characteristic, dynamic, whatever, that's a red flag, pay attention to it and go a different direction. You're not going to change somebody. You're not going to fix them. You're not going to tolerate them. Like all of these things where we're like, oh, I can work with that. It's a nightmare. Get yourself, especially at the start of the relationship, before you're invested, get yourself with someone who doesn't have significant baggage. Now, whenever I say that, people say, like, what do you mean? I have baggage. Does that mean I can never be in a relationship with somebody? No, it doesn't mean that. But what it means is we all should have boundaries and expectations. And if you feel like someone is violating your boundaries and expectations, you want to avoid the relationship before you get so invested that you allow this progression bias to get you stuck in a relationship. And that brings us to number four. Number four and number five are related. Number four is please make sure that you are having discussions about the future. You're sharing your long-term goals. We all have goals or aspirations things that we want to accomplish in our lives, ways in which we want our lives to look. And if you're not aligned, it's a recipe for disaster, right? Things like, are you going to have kids? If you have kids, what kind of, do you want them to grow up in a religious household or not? What are the financial expectations that you have for each other? Are both people going to work? Someone not going to work? What's the household going to look like? What's the philosophy going to look like? Those kinds of things. You should have robust conversations about those issues and pay attention. If you disagree there, right from the start, pay attention to it and go a different direction. Don't think, oh, I'm going to convince this person to have kids in the future. No. Oh, I'm going to convince them to change their faith. I don't think so. And then last one, just make sure across the board you are able to fully talk about and express what you want. I talked earlier on about how you know if you have a bad picker is if you're not able to be transparent in your relationships. You should push yourself in a relationship to be super transparent. This is what I want. This is what I expect. This is how I feel. Whether or not you, partner, think it's reasonable, this is how I feel about this. And if you're not able to do that, you are going to put your relationship on ice. So that's it. Those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all those YouTube things. And if there are other topics like this topic you'd like me to talk about, let me know in the comments below. Thank you.